especially when I get to interact with all of our participants, from the competing students to the coaches and volunteers. I know many of you and I recognize many names in this Zoom room tonight, so I'm pleased to have you join us. We're really excited to get into this virtual field trip with MBARI FathomVerse tonight, but I did want to handle just a few introductions and some house rules before we get started. So to start, I'd like to have my coworker, Nicole, introduce herself to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole Palma. I work with Melissa at the NOSB National Office at the Center for Ocean Leadership at UCAR. A lot of words. I'm based in Monterey, California, and I've been with the program for about a year and a half now, and this is my first finals, so it's very exciting for me as well as all of you. Thanks for being here.
And I would say most of you have seen lots of emails coming in from Nicole as we get ready for the finals competition. So I want to thank her for all her hard work this year. And also tonight, we have Dr. Sonia Legg, who is the director for the Center of Ocean Leadership at UCAR, which NOSB is where we're now housed. So Sonia, I believe you have a few words for our attendees tonight, so I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so thank you to Melissa and Nicole for giving me this time to introduce myself. So I'm the director of the Center for Ocean Leadership. I'm a physical oceanographer. I've been working in oceanography for over 30 years now. And I've been in my current role at the Center for Ocean Leadership just for a couple of years. So I'm really looking forward to both tonight's activities and also the finals competition. It will be my first time involved in a finals competition. I was previously the parent of a participant in a regional competition. So the National Ocean Sciences Bowl is our flagship educational activity at the Center for Ocean Leadership. And I want to say thank you to all the coaches, regional coordinators and volunteers, and of course, all the students who make this event rewarding for everybody. The finals competition is the culmination of many months of study and preparation, and you students have hopefully gained a wealth of knowledge and understanding about the ocean through the process. And I hope you'll be able to take that with you into your future careers and lives. But as we all know, the ocean is also amazing and fun, and that's what this evening is all about. So I'll hand it back to Melissa and Nicole.
Thanks, Sonia. So we're really thrilled to be joined tonight by Dr. Kakani Katija, and please tell me if I pronounced that correctly. And she is the principal engineer at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. She and her team have been focused on how to broadly engage the community in science, something that is of great importance to the NOSB, and especially how to inspire our next generation of ocean explorers, which are all of you joining us tonight. And therefore, she has guided the development of FathomVerse, which is a mobile game that allows anyone with a smartphone or a tablet to engage in ocean exploration and discovery. So just so you know, we are going to leave time at the end of tonight's presentation for Q&A. At that point, we'll ask you to raise your hands in Zoom. If you hover over the React icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen, you'll see that there's a raised hand option. Go ahead and do that, and then we'll call on you and have you unmute yourself to be able to answer or ask your question. Or if that's too much for you tonight, because you're still studying and practicing, you can just simply type your questions in the chat box and the NOSB staff will read them aloud. So we have you all muted currently, and we're going to ask that you keep yourselves muted during the presentation, just so we can eliminate any background noise that could interfere with our speaker tonight. We will also ask team members and coaches specifically, if you could please be sure to rename yourselves to your full name in Zoom. So if you hover over your name, you can go to more and say rename. We want you to do that simply so that we can count you as being in attendance tonight. So with that, now I can turn it over to Kakani and she can start her presentation, and we hope you enjoy tonight.
Yes. Well, great. I'm very excited to be here. I'm going to, let's see, I want to share and I have to share sound. I'm going to share my desktop, and then are you seeing my slides?
Yes, looks good.
Amazing. All right. Well, so today I have the honor actually of presenting FathomVerse to everybody here. As Melissa mentioned, I'm a principal engineer at MBARI. My background's actually in aerospace engineering, and I would say within the last 15 years or so, I've been focused on ocean-related technologies. Specifically, how do we create technologies so that we can observe life better in the ocean? And FathomVerse is one of the ways in which we could do that. And so I often like to start some of my talks with this photo, because oftentimes this is a perspective we don't really have of our planet, right? This is Earth if you were to center it on the Pacific Ocean. And I kind of, laughingly joke about how, I don't understand why we call our planet Earth when clearly it's mostly ocean. And when we look at the statistics, that's even more appropriate. The fact that 71% of Earth's surface area is ocean, but also, right, the ocean isn't just a surface, right? It's a massive volume, and it represents actually 99% of the Earth's habitable regions. And so, for a place that is so massive and expansive, we've seen really, really little amounts of it. And there's a paper actually that was just published yesterday where they noted that about 0.001% of the Earth's seafloor has actually been seen or imaged at like human resolutions. And because of that, researchers estimate anywhere from 30 to 60% of life in the ocean is unknown to science. So that means there's so much left to discover. There's so many animals that we know almost nothing about, and so many places within the ocean that we have the opportunity to explore. And so how do we do that at a really, really large scale, particularly when we're in the situation now where the ocean is changing rapidly, largely because of our human activities? And so how do we capture this observations? How do we make these observations? And how do we do it in a way that, keeps up with the changes that we're seeing in the ocean? And so when I talk about observing biology or observing animal life, there's a number of ways we do this in the ocean. One way is like measuring sound, right? Or acoustics, or hydrophones, using underwater microphones. Another way we do this is actually by measuring environmental DNA. The idea that if you, sample water, you will extract DNA of animals that has probably been or has occupied that water mass. But another way that we observe life in the ocean is actually through imaging, right? We can take photos and videos, and we can do this in a number of different ways. And so this is just an example of a whole bunch of different platforms that the research community uses to make these visual observations of ocean life. So what you see on the top row, these are all robotic systems that MBARI utilizes. So on the top left is the mini ROV, and the top center, that is ROV Doc Ricketts. On the top right, that is an autonomous underwater system. It's called I2MAP, which has a high resolution camera integrated to the front of the vehicle so that we can, capture biological communities as this instrument or robot is swimming by. And then at the bottom, yes, on the bottom right, this is another ROV that MBARI operates called Ventana. But then in the bottom center, that is NOAA's vehicle. And then on the bottom left, this is actually a drop camera system that's been developed by National Geographic Society. So, these are examples. Scuba divers are collecting lots of images and video. And so the idea is that together, right, we've collected or amassed a ton of data, but oftentimes we just don't have any plans for how we're going to process it, right? So like here's an example of a video that one of our remotely operated vehicles has collected here in the Monterey Bay area. And so when we collect data like this, what we have to actually do is convert this data into something actionable. And the way we do that is we actually have these visual taxonomic professionals who can look at imagery like this and tell us precisely to like what species are the animals that we're looking at. how many of them are found in this this video. How are those animals maybe associated with different types of substrate or properties on the seafloor? And so you can imagine that process of looking at videos and annotating them and converting this information into something useful or quantitative takes a lot of time and expertise. And so, this isn't something just anyone can do. We're very fortunate at MBARI where we have an entire video lab of experts that can do this work, but that isn't true everywhere. And then not only that, there's limited expertise, it's also limited in time. It takes a lot of time to convert this information. So how do we do this? How do we do this at scale? And this is something we've been thinking a lot about in terms of engagement. So like, how do we invite a lot of people into this process to help us annotate or convert our visual data into something useful? And so we actually are using artificial intelligence, but what we're doing is we're inviting game players through FathomVerse to help us train the artificial intelligence that we create to then identify all the life that we come across in our visual data. And so what FathomVerse is, it's a mobile device app. It can be downloaded on either iOS or Android devices. The audience is you, high school aged players and up. And really, we built something that was focused on ocean lovers, animal lovers, and armchair explorers. So like people who either love going to aquariums or are participating in the Ocean Science Bowl, or just love David Attenborough films and just want to learn more, but also contribute to ocean science. And the other thing I want to add is that data that's coming into our game, because basically we are inviting data, like institutions or groups who generate data, and then make those contributions of their data to FathomVerse. And then game players can look at this imagery sometimes for the very first time and might come across animals we don't know very much about. And so we have data contributions coming from Schmidt Ocean Institute, NOAA, Ocean Networks Canada, Ocean Observatories Initiative, which is the National Science Foundation, as well as Ocean Exploration Trust, and then, of course, MBARI. And so we launched FathomVerse about a year ago, and then about a month ago, we launched the second version of the game, and this is what the trailer looks like. And I want to add that this has been a project that MBARI has been involved in, the Monterey Bay Aquarium has been involved in. We've been funded by the National Science Foundation, as well as the Schmidt Marine Technology Partners. And we've also been working with a game design studio based in the Netherlands called Anne Ranch. So this has been a really big effort. And the way we've built FathomVerse is we've done this around 5 specific design pillars. First and foremost is exploration, right? We want to invite players to explore the ocean and ocean life with us. And players have agency or can make decisions around what activities or what kinds of missions they want to participate in order to follow their curiosity. We've also spent a lot of time in the user interface or in the front end of the game to create moments of, we call it blissful productivity. The idea that through this audio visual experience in the game, you can be undertaking tasks that are not only productive, but also enjoyable. Not like doom scrolling on social media, you could be using that same time to contribute meaningfully to ocean science. The other thing is casual play. I used to play a lot of video. I shouldn't say I used to, I still do. But like oftentimes video games require consoles. It requires you to spend tons of time, like you set aside time in order to play a game. And what we wanted to do here was to make it really casual, like something that you could pick up really quickly and while waiting in line or waiting for the bus, contribute meaningfully to science. And the last two things, and these are the things for me anyways, were incredibly important, but also important for those people that we brought in early on and beta tested the game, was that we wanted to make this real. We didn't want to create some fake narrative about some aliens coming from outer space and wanting to, like discover the most populous life. No, instead we've just kept it real. Like players through their activities are contributing to our mission to discover all ocean life. And it's keeping it real and that inspiring mission that we've really leaned in on for the game. And the fact is that it's true. The process that the game players are doing, the data that they're contributing, the knowledge that they're contributing is going towards our capabilities to discover all ocean life. And so one of the things that we're able to do with the game, the way we've built it, is that it is extensible, it's expandable. And so what you're seeing here is just an example of some of the different animal missions that you can be participating in, like looking for different animal groups as you play the game. We also have a whole system built where, as you play the game, you earn points. You also unlock content in your vault. And this is content, right, that is specifically for the game and provided not only our team, but also, the broad oceanographic community and other contributors. And then the other thing that we've thought a lot about is like, how do we expand this game over time? Like, how do we incorporate different styles of play or different, I don't know, interactions, data interactions? And so we've built the game in such a way that we can add on mini games as new data come in, as new scientific needs come in, but also from feedback from our game players themselves. And so just a big highlight, the game has been live for just over a year. We've spent a ton of money building it. And again, I'm just so grateful to the National Science Foundation for this level of investment. We wouldn't be able to do that without them. And since we've launched, we've had almost 36,000 players from around the world, representing 177 different countries. And collectively, they've generated 19 million annotations. Those annotations, and we have the whole consensus protocol that converts their annotations into what we call consensus labels. They represent about 45% of the data that's found in expertly labeled databases. So very, very quickly, enthusiasts or participants in FathomVerse are going to eclipse the expert contributions that we already have in our community. And then we have more than 150 people who have downloaded the game, played the game, and have gotten to the final level, and then continue to contribute their time and expertise to the game. And what I think is really exciting is that there is no shortage of data and information that's coming in from our partners. We have millions of images that are essentially ready to go, just waiting for the FathomVerse community to start playing. And so really the goal, right, where we're trying to go is to train models, artificial intelligence, that can basically look at imagery like this and quickly convert it into animal IDs, counts of animals, descriptions of the different types of substrate, and be able to do this not just in the places where we do a lot of exploration, like here in Monterey Bay, but also do this in places we've never been before, right? Indicating when we come across an animal we've never seen before or is unknown to science. And we can all do that algorithmically if we have data like the data game players are generating. And so imagine that together through the FathomVerse community, through the research community, us all working together to create these kinds of systems so we can discover all life in the ocean. And so that is what we're trying to do with FathomVerse. I'll take a little bit of time if you wanted to use that QR code. I think it takes you to our website. And then depending on your device, you can go to the App Store or you can go to Google Play to download the app. And, while some of you might be doing that, I'll just pause here. I'm also going to transition to my phone so you guys can see the app itself, and I'll try and highlight some of the important features about it. So bear with me while I make this transition. All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. And I don't think there's any feedback or anything, right?
Nope, you
Nope,
sound
it sounds good.
Great. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to share my screen.
I might have to make you a host.
Oh, okay.
Or did we already do that, Melissa?
Start.
He's a host.
All right. So I think yes. Share
There.
audio. Great.
We're seeing it.
Great. So here I will be shocked if this all works. So do you see my, do you see FathomVerse?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so this is the hub. And so the hub is, your landing page, basically where you get started. And so I'm going to orient you to a couple of things. First, the first thing I'm going to do is music falling. Do you guys hear music?
Not currently, no.
No, so maybe that's no. All right. Well, believe me when I tell you this, there's an ocean radio. There's 4 different stations that you can listen to. One of them is FathomVerse specific. One of them is actually MBARI's hydrophone. So we have a hydrophone off the California coast that collects or captures noises of whales and other animals going by. So you can check that out. The Monterey Bay Aquarium also gave us their soundtrack for their Into the Deep exhibit. So you can also listen to that. But my favorite is Lo-Fi Tides. So you could just pick whatever soundscape you want. And then, in the settings page, you can see the credits, and there's just so many people and organizations that have contributed to FathomVerse. So I do recommend taking a look at that. But so this is the hub, and what you'll notice here, there's a number of tiles. And what those tiles represent are different mini games. So these are mini games that are essentially different data interactions. And 2 different things we ask game players to help us do. One thing is to classify images. So tell us what animal it is they're looking at in that image. And then the other thing we ask players to help us with is to detect animals in imagery. So say you have an entire ocean scene, where in that image might there be coral or sponges, etc. But before you can make a data contribution, right, or label something that is unknown, that happens in expeditions. You have to actually start with training. And what training involves is the selection of up to 3 different animal groups, and associated with these different animal groups are what we call mission briefings, where you can open them up and learn about these different animal missions. So, there is education involved if you wanted. And so our team has worked very, very hard on creating these mission briefings for more than 60 different animal groups. This one in particular, these are Physonex siphonophores. This mission briefing is accompanied with the scientific name, a helpful diagram that describes the different distinguishing features that you might see, and then also representative imagery. So what are some examples of these animal groups? And then also confusing lookalikes. So animals that you might come across that might be confused by, and actually what groups they correspond to. So you would then select an animal group, and then, participate in a training dive. So I'll do one of those because it looks like I haven't been trained on jellies, mollusks, or worms. So those numbers you see there, 0 of 3 or 0/3, it means that I've done 0 training dives and I need to do 3 in order to be certified. And so let me start the process. So in a training dive, you have fewer images that you're looking at, I think on the order of 25. And here, this is like the experience is kind of slowly moving along on these currents. And occasionally you are pulsing, and this pulse then opens up these images. And then you have to make a decision about whether or not you want to collect these images and if they match the animal missions that you currently have active. So you can see the animal missions that I have active here at the top. As a reminder, let me look at Worms Plus so I can see, okay, what are those animals? What are representative animals in that group? Like these midwater annelids, Tomopterus, are very, very weird. And so, I can learn as I go and make decisions around whether or not these are animals I want to collect or look at. And so you can move around in these currents. You can collect animals. You can switch currents. I'll show you how I do that really quickly. And I have no idea what that is, but I'm going to collect it anyway as an example. And then here I'll change currents. But at some point I can exit the dive. So I'll exit the dive here. And then really quickly, I start accumulating points. I also will get a bonus if I've actually opened up all of the images. You could see I didn't do that, so I didn't get those bonus points. But already I'm being rewarded CP, which is contribution points. And then the next phase is assigning a label or a name to the image. And, this animal, it's kind of hard to see. I'm curious. Does anyone here have any guesses for what this is? You can just put it in the chat. Yeah. Yep. I think everyone's got it. Yeah, this is a squid. And so remember my active missions, like one of them is a mollusk, right? Squids are one of the animals within the mollusk group. So I will assign it a label of mollusk. This one, I think you all know what this one is. These are weird. These are weird animals. I've never seen anything like this before. But these are worms. So I would just assign it that name. I'm also going to show you examples like when let's say I do it wrong. Like this. Does anyone know what this is? Ctenophore. Nice. I don't know what a sea pansy is, to be honest. But can you tell me if that's a jelly? Not a jelly, right? But I'm going to say that it is, and you'll notice, you'll see what happens. That's a jelly. I'll go quickly through the rest of these. And I'm pretty sure that's a squid. That's a fish, but I'm going to say it's a worm. This is going to really affect my score, everybody. So I will be disappointed. But once you get through that process, then you finish. And what happens right away in training is we give you feedback, like how well you did. And so the first piece of feedback you get is like whether or not the community, right, the labels that you assigned have agreement with what the rest of the community has. And so you can see all of the images that I got right. You can also see areas where the community disagreed with me. So like here, this jelly, right? I said it was a jelly. It's a lobed ctenophore. So it's not in the same animal group. And it also will tell me animals that I missed. So like these are animals I did not open up or I did not collect. And the reason why we want you to do that is because we really want you to be able to collect everything that's relevant to that animal group so that we can, ensure that you're getting the right information. And so this is feedback you get right away in training. And you do this a certain number of times and then you're certified. Oh, wow, I just got my 30-day streak because I played this every day for the last 30 days. So there's that, that's training. And then once you have unlocked expeditions by getting certified, you have some other options. There's this game called Illuminate, and I'm going to try and skip through this really quickly. Where you basically, and it's funny because this is literally how we do ocean exploration. You're kind of hunting around with a flashlight, looking for animals to observe or collect. That's what we're doing here as well. You can see the 3 missions that I have that are active. I'm looking for bony fish. I believe those are feather stars. And then next to it is a sea fan. And you're just roaming around in this dark space. I'm going to try and skip ahead. Let me click this one. And then, do the dive complete, gives me some CP or points. And now this is where things get interesting. So I didn't mention that you can actually favorite images. There's a reason why that's really neat, but this is a sea fan. I'm not really sure what that is, to be honest. I think that's another sea fan. I have no idea what that is. This is another sea fan, but I'm going to like it. And then I'm going to hit finish. And what happens is when you look at these expeditions, what you're looking at is not just images that an expert has labeled or has looked at. You're also looking at images where we just don't have the answer. We don't know yet. It's like unlabeled imagery coming from our contributors. And what we're trying to do collectively is to label that imagery. And so we get feedback on things that are known. We also get told that some of these images aren't assigned anything. So we have to wait for new discoveries, which I'll get to in a little bit. Then there's 2 more mini games. Identify, it just skips the entire collection mechanic and you just go right ahead to labeling all of the images in a dive. But then a new feature that we launched about a month ago is Bound. And what Bound is a localization mini game. So basically you're looking at these images. Oof, some images take a lot of effort. And what you're trying to do is basically like, I know that this is a sponge. I know that this is another coral or sea fan. Here's another one. And, some images you might have like lots and lots of urchins, which, often take a lot of time to label. But the goal here is for you to label every single thing that you see, or at least draw a bounding box around it. And then you do that with 5 images. I'm going to kill the app because I don't want to ruin the data. And then your annotations get added to the pool and then evaluated. So I'm going to kill the app because I don't want to ruin the game. I think you guys are seeing the app again. Thumbs up.
Yes.
If that's true. Okay, good. And then other really great things about the game is, you can have messages from us. We'll give you tips and tricks. We'll also announce like particular events. For instance, we just celebrated our 1st birthday, and to celebrate, we had a quest, and you can in the quest you can figure out like what is it going to take to achieve badges. So we have different badges, like different point values, different levels that you might have reached, different streaks, localizations, different discoveries you've seen, but also these different awards that you unlock based on your contribution points. We also have favorites, right? So remember I favorited that sea fan, but there's other really random animals we've come across and I favorited. And I think what's really exciting about this is we can actually share this image, and you can make it available to your friends and family. You know, if you see something crazy or weird, you can share that out. And also the credit of like who the source is for that image is also accompanies that share. Another thing that I think is really fun and exciting, you know, the library, you can go back and learn a little bit more about those animals in case you forget about them. But we've also started a Discord server that actually involves, I think we have more than 1,500 members of our community. Yeah, almost 1,600, where, you know, the FathomVerse community, the FathomNots, get together and they talk about the different animals they come across. Like, you know, if there's an animal you saw and you have no idea what it is, you can actually have a discussion with other members of the FathomVerse community and get the answers, or at least get the best answers that the community can come up with. And then last but certainly not least, you see that My New Discoveries button there. So you'll notice that it's currently activated. And what that means is that there is new consensus. So like the game has aggregated all of these votes from game players. And by aggregating those votes, we've created consensus. So we've assigned labels to those images that didn't have a label before. And so you're going to see how poorly I did on I guess my guesses. But here data has been retrieved, and then we can see, right, the community agrees with me 5 out of 6 times. So this image, I said it was a lobed ctenophore. The community agreed with me. This image, I said it was an actiniarian. FathomVerse says, yes, that's right, but it thinks it's a higher level right now. And over time, as we get more annotations from the community, we'll get more and more refinement. But here's an example. I thought that this was a black coral, but FathomVerse says it's a feather star. And so actually, I disagree that there's actually both of those things in this image. And so we have guidance around what to do, and if in that case that happens. And so one of the things you can do is actually flag an image. Like if you disagree with the consensus, or if you disagree with what other players are doing, you can just flag it. And then that flag gets aggregated with the rest of the data and alerts an expert on our team to take a look at that image. Other consensus, oh man, you could see here, look, I got a 29% accuracy on the bounding boxes around this image. And it looks like I bounded that sea star. Nobody else did. I'm going to flag it because it's obviously there. I'm going to flag this because I know that that is another sea fan. I think that's a sponge. But this is the point, is like together we're working, you know, collaboratively to label or assign as much information to the imagery that we as a community are collecting. And so you can see here, like I have unknown to the community, I still have 131 images I'm waiting to hear back on, and 694 boxes that I've drawn that I'm still waiting on consensus. So you can keep up with what the community is doing through the My New Discoveries button. And then I think that the last thing I wanted to share with you is your player progression. So as like a player, you earn points, you unlock different awards, you also unlock different levels. But say you wanted to share with your family or your friends, or like compete with each other, or, you know, proof that you've contributed all of this time and effort into really this is like a volunteer activity, and want to see how you've, like, what your contributions have been. And so we've actually created a player report, a player dashboard, where you can see like your progress. So here, this is me, because you're looking at my game. I'm a denizen of the deep. I've earned 3 million contribution points. You can see plots that show my annotations over time, or my cumulative CP over time. You can see how many discoveries I've made, and how often people have agreed with me or disagreed with me. So no one is perfect. You can also see how many animal missions I've unlocked. And then also, this is something I love to look at and review, is you can see how you do on different animal groups. Like acorn worms, my score is 81%. And, I can look at these scores and be like, okay, what animal groups might I want to work on, or what animal groups might I want to avoid because maybe I'm not really good at them. And so all of that can be done within the app. And you can also export that report and share it with, I don't know, a teacher or your family, etc. And I accidentally muted myself, maybe.
Nope, we can still hear you.
Oh, you can. Okay. Well, and so with that is FathomVerse, and I'm happy to take any questions about it. But I highly recommend trying it, figuring out what works, what you might like to see, and then joining the Discord community, because this is where we not only talk about the things we see, but also like share ideas around things we want to improve upon, like how do we want this whole thing to grow? Because really right now we might be interested in imagery. In the future, we might want to also have players help us with sound or audio, like identify what it is that they're hearing. Or maybe someday, hook this game up with our autonomous vehicles to help make decisions around whether or not we should be looking at this animal or collecting it or observing or moving on to do a mission. And so now that we have FathomVerse, we have this mechanism to connect thousands, tens of thousands of people with ocean science and ocean exploration and discovery.
Oh, now we will need you to turn your sound on your other screen.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm totally excited to get back in the game. I gave it an original. Check out after we met you and Lily at the 2024 Ocean Sciences meeting and you did your presentation. So that's sort of where we all first connected, and we were like, hey, we'd love to highlight you as part of our competition.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And the first version of the game, like the first version and the second version are really, really different. The second version has changed a lot, and this is because of player feedback. Players were telling us, what do they want to see? What would they like to do? How would they like to change things? And we listened to them. And I don't know, it's been really exciting to see people pick it up and play and let us know what they think.
Yeah, I will say it looks very different from the time I went in.
Yeah.
I will say that we spoke to Lily because you were talking about how like you're trying to engage the community, and because it's a game, she noted how one of your target audiences are high school students, and obviously that's who participates in our program.
Yeah.
So the students of NOSB, and you can put it in the chat and let us know if you're interested. We had talked about working with you and Lily and maybe seeing if we could come up with like a mini competition just for the NOSB teams. They love to compete, obviously.
Okay.
That'd be kind of fun because it would obviously be helping you,
Mhm.
and we get them engaged. So if that is something, NOSB students would be interested in, let us know and we can see how we can work towards that. But I want to make sure we have about 15 minutes left. So if there's any questions from the audience, again, raise your hand in Zoom and we can unmute you, or just like I said, feel free to put it in the chat box, and Nicole and I can read the questions aloud. Okay, we have actually one of our regional coordinators saying they've participated in the Zooniverse on spider crab underwater observations in Australia and enjoys the reports that summarize findings from our citizen science contributions. Does FathomVerse provide reports on what you do with the data that participants provide?
We do, and we're constantly within the Discord, but also with the in-app messaging, providing those updates. I think that's a really important piece of this for us compared to, I think, a lot of citizen science or community science projects. Like, we recognize people are putting time towards something, and we want to make sure people understand and know what their time, what they've done to contribute to this. And so what we do is we provide those periodic updates. We're like, we just pushed data from FathomVerse into like a larger data set. It's called FathomNet, so that experts can start using that data. And so we create moments of celebration around those contributions as well.
Great. Another question was, how much do you ask about the demographics of each participant?
So I should say, one, we don't actually collect any personal information about anyone downloading the app. We're very careful. We care about privacy, that sort of thing. We do, though, send out a survey that people can choose to optionally fill out. And, there they let us know more information about themselves. So that's voluntary, that isn't required. But we do, through the app, get some minimal information, like we actually know what country the downloads take place in. So that's how I'm able to say, players represent 177 different countries. Sometimes we have granularity to like what city are people from playing the game. And so I think the top cities right now includes San Francisco, Seattle, um, Boston, New York, and a couple others. But yeah, so through the surveys, this is where I get more information about demographics. So this is how we know what the age range of players that we hit. I would say that the age range of players, the vast majority of them tend to be Gen Z and millennials. But although some of our oldest players are in their 70s, which I find really fun, in terms of education level, gender identity, that sort of thing. We get that information from the surveys, but those are optional.
We had just a comment saying they had seen the trailer and it was impressive, but seeing it in action was great. So,
Oh, very cool.
see, any other questions? They say they have to ask, what is the cute little creature in the bottom right of your start page?
Bottom right of my start page. On the app?
In the
Oh,
slides where it had like the FathomVerse,
Oh, slides.
the creatures around it.
oh, right, the splash screen. That is a giant larvation, I think. Let me see if I can pull it up. Giant larvation. Sorry, I'll put a video in the chat. They make snot palaces, which is amazing. I highly recommend checking them out. Um, they're one of my favorite midwater animals right now.
Oh, okay. She put a link to it. I would ask, we ask this of most of our volunteers and presenters. You mentioned a little bit about where you started in your career, which was not oceanography.
Yeah.
You mentioned just a little bit more about, where you started and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, I started my academic career in aerospace engineering. But maybe I should back up and just say, what for me, like the reason why I'm doing the stuff I'm doing now is because I was uh loosely inspired by Star Trek.
Hmm.
But it was the mission of the original Star Trek that I was really attracted to. The idea that this crew of people were just going out into outer space looking for life and wanted to learn about it and interact with it and bring that information and that knowledge home. And that for me was just really exciting. And so I thought the real life people that would have that kind of mission were astronauts. And so that's why I was like, well, if I do aerospace engineering, I could potentially become an astronaut one day. And I really didn't know what I was doing, but it wasn't until I did my undergraduate degree, I started graduate school. I went to Caltech for my master's and PhD. And the reason I went there is because they're affiliated with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And at that time, there was, less of a focus on crewed exploration and more of a focus on robotic exploration. There was also this growth of kind of for-profit, private exploration, which for me, anyways, that didn't resonate with me very particularly. And so that's when I started to do kind of ocean research, and I started to learn that here's this place we know almost nothing about, and there's lots of life that we could learn from there as well. And so that's how I found myself doing ocean research, quickly learning that there's, technological gaps in how we make those kinds of biological observations. And so started to do bioengineering, and then started to do postdocs at oceanographic institutions like Woods Hole. And then, now I'm here, and these are all, I'm constantly thinking about this problem of how do we create technology to observe life in the ocean?
Fantastic, thanks.
Yeah.
Note, I can't see everybody's video, but I did see that our Centerville coach Beth definitely gave you the thumbs up at mentioning Star Trek.
Right? The
So there's
original Star Trek, very particular.
Aunt Penny, yeah. So you got some people
Nice.
along those lines with you with Star Trek. Let's see. We had another question that said, "How do researchers use the data from FathomVerse? What scientific goals do the data help achieve?"
Yeah, so if it's okay, I'm gonna share my screen and share a couple of things with people. What are you looking at? So let me stop my share and try again. Let's look at this one. I'm trying to fill out an application, but ignore that. I want to show you. So there's a program called FathomNet, and really the whole goal of this program is to accelerate ocean discovery with artificial intelligence. And so we do this through creation of data, but not only creation of data, but it's like sharing of data. Because what we recognize is, if we want to use artificial intelligence to process all of this imagery or all this data, um, a single group or a single researcher doesn't have sufficient information or data to truly train models that can generalize or can scale. And so what we've created through the FathomNet program is the FathomNet database. And what the FathomNet database is basically a collection of ocean imagery that represents, the goal is for it to represent all ocean life. And you can imagine this as like an information or knowledge aggregator, obviously for taxonomists or marine scientists, right, wanting to be able to learn about different ocean animals. And maybe here I'll show you that giant larvation, Bathycordeus. I'll just show you all of them, or we'll just do FathomNet and then all descendants. And so what the database holds is imagery, not only imagery of different animals that have been observed. Each one of these images also contain additional annotations, like I talked about localization, but also the names of the objects that have been localized. But in addition to this, I need to expand this a little bit more. If I go back. Sorry, some buttons are hidden from me because of Zoom. Here, go back to image detail. It also contains a lot of metadata depending on the image. So like metadata could be like the depth of the observation, the time, the date, the latitude and longitude. But what the point is all of this imagery is trackable, and you can basically figure out who the rights holder is, who made that contribution. But so not only is this like an information aggregator for people who have taxonomic expertise or marine science expertise, what it also does is it provides a gateway for people who are computer vision experts or artificial intelligence experts to also delve into ocean related problems. And so one of the ways that we do that is through what's called Kaggle competitions. And so these are data competitions that anyone can participate in, that we host in collaboration with the Computer Vision and Pattern Recognition Conference. And this community, like the goal here is to create models or create architectures that perform the best at different types of tasks. And what we try to do is basically introduce the computer vision community to ocean-related problems or ocean-related visual problems so that they can not only learn about the ocean, but also then focus on creation of algorithms or approaches that could work well in the ocean space. So that's a big part of why we're creating the FathomNet database. The other thing that we do is we train models on the data that are contributed to FathomNet. And those models can, do awesome things. Like you can, I'm gonna hopefully, I always want to avoid doing live demonstrations, but here I go. You know, you can select an image and you can run that, a model that we've trained on that image to see how well it works. And so in this case, the megalodon detector, what it does is it specifically detects animal objects. It doesn't assign names to those animals, but this is really helpful. Like say, if you collected hours and hours of video and you want to really only look at the sections of the video that contain animals in them. So this is a really important use case for AI. And the point is like, we make all of these models available to the community. So you can just literally download these models, run them on your visual data, benchmark them. That's coming eventually. And this is all part of what we're trying to create with the FathomNet program. And so what's I think really important to keep in mind is that as what FathomVerse is doing, like the game players are generating annotations that wind up becoming contributions to the FathomNet database. And so while game players might not be able to identify an image like this, this squid to the species level, what they're able to do is like, if I go to Explore and if I search for bony fish, these are labels that are coming from the game. And if I was a bonefish researcher, you know, I specialize in Actinopterygii, I could do this search and automatically I would get to these novel images and then be able to quickly take a look at them, you know, assign a different name to them if I knew what this was, and then also verify that imagery. So, you know, say that this particular animal is indeed a particular species of bony fish. And so what this means is like you know, the idea is that experts can contribute their knowledge or their expertise to verify or refine the data that's in the database so that over time we're going to have better and better data sets to represent all ocean life. But then you can imagine occasionally we might come across an animal that hasn't been defined or described before. And that is, for me anyways, a moment of celebration because we're making this data accessible and findable and interoperable, right? People are then able to quickly make these kinds of discoveries when they haven't been able to do that in the past.
Amazing. We have a couple more questions. I'm going to break them up because they're a little long. So this one's interesting. Do you happen to know what is the most controversial image in FathomVerse, and what are your thoughts on it?
Most controversial. Well, one of the things we try to do is, you know, when we have data contributions coming in from like Schmidt Ocean Institute or NOAA, our team actually reviews all the images because we want a couple things we want to make sure of. So number one, privacy is important. So we don't want photos of random people in the game or in the database. The other thing we want to do is also to try and minimize like perception of violence against animals, because like when we're collecting animals or when we're observing them, sometimes it might look weird, especially if it's out of context. So we also remove those images, but sometimes images get through. And so game players, they actually love those. They pick up on them and they create these like photo albums of animals being inconvenienced by robots and stuff. And so that's a hit in FathomVerse on the Discord for sure.
There were two questions sort of around the community use of FathomVerse. So one was they were wondering whether you envision FathomVerse community science, basically turning it into something like Fold It, which I'm not exactly sure what that is, where even players have the opportunity to be mentioned in research.
For sure. And there's, you know, there's other examples of other communities where this is starting to happen. I think what's really interesting about FathomVerse and what we're learning over time is that, you know, even players who, you know, might not have been you know, classically trained in taxonomy or, you know, have a degree in marine science, like have accumulated a lot of knowledge. Like somebody I know who's in Livestream Oceanographic Discord and also participates in FathomVerse, like they know a lot about squids and they've developed a rapport with squid taxonomists and are now being like invited to write papers or be authors on publications. And so, there's all of these opportunities that, get opened up because people now have access, right? They can now participate in science in a meaningful way and make those meaningful connections with researchers. So yes, that's definitely something we're trying to do.
One of the other questions was asking, are there other citizen science app developers with which you work to discuss what's working well and how you can help each other's efforts? So they were thinking about Folding at Home and TundraNet.
Yeah, well, we work or we've interacted with and talked a lot with iNaturalist and eBird, or also they have the Merlin Bird ID app. And what's interesting is the researchers that do the artificial intelligence that's underlying both of those apps, they're also are a part of this computer vision pattern recognition community that we're also now a part of. And so we do have conversations with their developers, conversations with, the heads of their programs to try and understand, okay, what are the things that they're working on? What are the things that worked really well for them? And then what are things like areas where they might be expanding that we could potentially share our capabilities or capacity? Like one example, right, is we had the iNaturalist executive director, Scott, come and visit MBARI, and he was giving us all of his tips about, how do you build an app, what worked really well for them, keeping it as simple as possible. And so we've taken all of those, that advice, those lessons, and have applied it to what we've been doing with FathomVerse. And the thing is like we're all working together essentially towards the same goal. Like we're all trying to grow our knowledge of the natural world. And so it's really exciting to be able to do that in a collaborative way with all of these other groups with very similar interests.
Okay, well, we got to the end of our hour and I don't see any more questions in the chat. So everyone is just, saying thank you. So thank you for joining us for tonight. I will say I'm thinking back to my years as a TA for an oceanography course at UNH, and we tried to incorporate some games into our labs. And this is way above and beyond that those students got to play years ago. So I hope that everybody tonight will come out of this feeling excited to go and join FathomVerse, join that community. We always talk about how NOSB is a supportive community. Well, now you have another community that you can join and really help along with research. So as we're signing out tonight, I'd love for all of you, we always have the question, what is your favorite organism? So I guess tonight the question would be like, if you were playing FathomVerse, what organism would you hope that you stumble upon so that you can identify? Feel free to drop that in the chat. But again, I want to thank FathomVerse for joining us tonight and presenting. I think this is really exciting. And I thank all of you for joining us tonight. And I hope that you leave this virtual field trip feeling excited to explore FathomVerse more in depth on your own, or perhaps with your team. So as a reminder, tonight before you go, just for coaches and volunteers, just remember that we are holding office hours for any last minute questions next week. So that'll be Monday the 12th and Tuesday the 13th. These are not mandatory. So you can just drop in with any time within that hour as needed if you have questions. And we look forward to seeing you all at our opening ceremony next Friday, which will be 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So again, thanks for being here tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next Friday and then seeing you in the competitions. Bye.
Good luck, everybody.
Bye.
Have fun.
Thanks all. Thanks, Kakani. Great
Thank
animals in the
you.
chat.
Yeah,
I know, I'm reading them. That's great.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.